I thought that this kind of environment must exist, but it wasn't until somebody said, hey, there's this thing called sex club, and he told me about conversations that they had and the way they were kind of speaking about these subjects, and I just thought it was a great idea.
Talking about sex in a way that's very vulnerable and very open and very honest is something that's really rare.
What surprised me, I think, is how deep you can go in just a very short time with strangers.
Sex Club is a conversational space where we share and talk about what we usually don't dare to, about our sexuality and our intimacy. And the idea is that we practice becoming comfortable talking about sex, because often we actually don't feel comfortable. And then we wouldn't talk to our partners about it or to our lovers. I grew up thinking saying anything during sexual situations would ruin the moment. Because of this myth, I didn't experience orgasm until I was 33. So I'm super passionate about offering this space to as many people as possible to just practicing becoming comfortable talking about sex.
It was basically a gathering of people who just came to the event to kind of talk about anything and everything to do with sex, their hang-ups, their triumphs and their failures, and things that they are currently dealing with, things that they're just on the precipice of getting over.
Being in that environment really helps you reconceptualize your own issues and get a whole fresh perspective on them. Very real, very human. It's very humanizing.
It's very much a participatory space and a very touching and sweet and honest and a really safe space as well.
You feel embraced, you feel a sense of warmth around you.
I think there's obviously a nervousness going in. There's a nervousness that always surrounds sex and the subject, but people were just so open and honest and non-judgmental that, you kind of loosen up and you realize that you're all here for the same reasons.
One element about sexuality and intimacy is actually the connection towards ourselves. So we do exercise around it to really connect with ourselves.
This is my first time I've ever come to any kind of group session of any sort, and I felt welcome and open pretty much the minute I walked in the door.
I've been to a few now, and I always find them so valuable, and every time I learn something different.
I was surprised by the level of interest that people kind of had in what you had to say, and not judgmental, but just a really engaged, friendly, kind.
Sex Club as a whole is really helping me develop as a person, especially through exploring my sexuality and empowering myself to become a much more whole being.
I see sometimes Sex Club as a little bit of a rehearsal to actually then talk with our lovers about it, or our partners, or also our friends. Because Sex Club is not just a space that we facilitate. Sex Club can happen everywhere.
To learn those words, you learn about other people's experiences. It just creates an awareness. Even sexual education at school doesn't teach you anything about true consent, about what it means to have sex for you. None of that is taught. So Sex Club is opening that door.
It's a true learning pool. How can we make it better, more conscious, more rich, whatever we need for our sex lives, basically. At least that's true for me.
There's not enough space and time in our everyday lives to actually talk about one of the most important things that we have in life. Connections and sexuality. Here there's actual space to open up, and the circle is there to listen carefully, and you do the same with others. That's precious.